The most notable thing about it, though, was the way most houses contained Casper Road in their address plaques. No 745 here, it was all 745 Casper Road. A few even had ghosts next to the numbers. Bram and Hemlock spent a pleasant half-hour walking up and back the street slowly, noting the gardens and trees, Bram, and sticks and smells, Hemlock. When they got back to number 667, Bram fed Hemlock, made some dandelion tea, and took his tea and his whittling bag back outside to watch Casper Road awake. Bram settled on the front stoop. Hemlock snuffed around the steps for a while, then settled beside him, half of her on each step. Bram had been whittling since he was 10, the only one of his 5 siblings to catch the bug. He'd been transfixed, watching his father transform chunks of wood into art. For years he'd begged to try it and had always been told, "Watch, learn." Then on his 10th birthday he'd unwrapped a chunk of basswood and a pair of thick gloves. "Where's the knife?" Bram had said, fingers itching to hold wood and blade. "You get the knife when you promise us that you'll always wear the gloves while you whittle," his father had said. "I promise," Bram had sworn solemnly, and his mother had produced a knife from behind her back. She'd laughed with joy at his excitement, and his father had said, "Carve me something pretty." They weren't the same gloves, of course, but Bram had always kept his promise. Even 1,000 miles from his parents, he pulled on his gloves before he picked up the knife. "What are you going to be?" he murmured to the chunk of wood he'd plucked from the curb on their morning walk. He let his mind and eyes wander as he thought. Bram didn't know anything about architecture, but the black and white house across from his looked odd. It seemed to have flown together rather at random until you unfocused your eyes, and then it was clear that its symmetry was diagonal rather than horizontal. Bram found it both ugly and intriguing. But the more he looked at it, the more ugly gave way to intrigue. Sometimes when Bram whittled, the whole world went away. Other times it was just something to do with his hands. This morning it was the latter, and he carved into the wood as he contemplated the diagonal house and the stirrings up and down Casper Road. What emerged was a pelican, the swoop of its beak breaking the diagonal of the wood. Bram smoothed his blade along its back, and Hemlock farted in her sleep. "Back to normal, then," Bram muttered, turning his face away from her. "Welcome, neighbor!" A man was approaching from the left. He was white, appeared to be in his 60s, and was wearing shorts and a cowboy hat, a combination that Bram found cartoonish. But he was smiling as he held out his hand to shake, and Bram could never spurn a smile. "Hey, I'm Bram Larkspur. Nice to meet you." He shook the man's hand with his whittling glove on before he realized it. The gloves felt so much a part of him, but the man didn't seem to mind any. He looked at the wood in Bram's other hand. "That an eagle? No, what are them things called?" Pelican. At least that's what it seems like," Bram said. "You didn't tell the wood what it wanted to be. The wood told you with every whirl and grain." That's right. I'm Carl Former, live right there." He pointed to the house next door on the left. "Been here about 15 years, so if you need anything, you just let me know." "Thank you, that's really kind." "You're not from around here, I don't think?" Carl asked it as a question, but he was peering at Bram as if trying to parse his not-from-around-here-ness before Bram even answered. "No, I'm from Washington State. Olympia. I moved to Sundance Junction in the winter to help on a tree farm, but after the season ended, I made my way down here." That was all true. But, like most true things, it could have been said completely differently and been truer. He could have said, "I lived in Olympia until my boyfriend and my best friend tore my life and my heart in half, leaving me a broken person who had to get away in order to keep things together." But although Bram's siblings liked to tease him about being too open with people, even Bram knew that this neighbor wasn't the person to share that with. Besides, he had put it behind him. He was in Garnet Run now, and he wasn't the same person who'd had his heart ripped out, chewed to pieces, and shoved back in his chest to beat sideways as a constant reminder that the people you trusted and loved the most were the ones with the power to destroy you. Yeah, it was totally behind him. "Hey there!" called a woman from across the street. She'd come out to her mailbox and was now crossing to Bram and Carl.